Hey nerds! Welcome to the React.js full course powered by React 19 and packed with real projects. We are in episode 8 and now we are moving into the next phase of our course, which is hooks. And today we are diving into the hooks that silently powers 90% of your app's logic, which is useEffect. By the end of this video, you will understand not just how it works, but when it runs, and why it runs, and how to clean it up, and even some advanced tricks that many senior devs forget. Let's rewind. Before hooks, we had class component, right? They worked, sure, but came with baggage. This lifecycle methods, boilerplate everywhere. It felt like Java in 2007. Then came hook. All the power of class component inside elegant function components. Two essential ones. First is use state, gives you memory, triggers re-render. And second is useEffect, lets you do stuff after your component renders. And that stuff includes side effect like API calling, timers, animations, subscription or DOM changes. So here what class component had. ComponentDidMount runs once after the first render, used for setup like fetching data. Then it runs componentDidUpdate, runs on every state or prop change, perfect for reacting to updates. Then it has componentWillUnmount. It runs right after the component disappears, used for cleanup like clearing timers, closing sockets. That's 3 lifecycle methods to memorize. Too much, right? React thought so too. So it gives useEffect, all lifecycle method in one. One hook to return them all. So it comes like this. Here, if the dependency array is empty, it runs only once, just like componentDidMount. If dependency changes, it runs again like componentDidUpdate. Then, before it reruns or when the component unmount, the cleanup function runs. That's your componentWillUnmount. Let me show you by the example. So here I have useEffect. Okay. So what is happening? When the app component mounts, it runs this useEffect. Then when this count value changes, this cleanup run first, then useEffect runs again. Okay. And when the component disappears, the cleanup runs one last time. Think of it as set things up and clean them after. Okay, so let's look at a bad example. Let's do a side effect inside the render phase. Okay, so let me remove this. Okay, so I'll be creating one count state, and whenever that also a button, and whenever that button is clicked, I'll increment that count value, and whenever the component count value is getting changed, I want to update the document title. Okay, so let me first create a state here, const count set count. Okay, by default I'll give it useState 0. And now inside this div, let's create a p tag also here, like you clicked count value and times. And then after this, let's create a button click me, and on click of it I want to increase the count by 1. So on click, or we can do that on click arrow function, set count plus 1. And whenever this count is also getting changed, I want to update the document title also. So document dot title here is equal to clicked template literal count times. Okay, now let's go to localhost and check how it is working. Refresh it. Yeah, let me remove this one. So now let's click here. So click. Okay, so what is the problem here? Let's go to code again and discuss it. Okay, so what is the problem here? This runs on every render, so React can't manage it. And suppose if this was fetch, means this instead of here it was fetch or a timer, boom, infinite loops. React's job is to control side effect, don't break the system. Okay, so how we can fix this issue is by using a use effect. Okay, okay, so here instead of doing document title like this, what we can do, we can use effect. Okay, and we have to import it from React. So as you can see, I've imported it already. Okay, and then in use effect, what we can do, we can just write it like here within the curly brackets. We can do whatever we want to do whenever our components update. Okay, so document dot title, I want to change the document title, right? So template literal clicked count times, and here we have to pass a dependency array. Okay, it's not mandatory, but we can pass it. So in dependency array, I'll pass count. Okay, so now this document title will only run whenever our count value gets updated. Okay, so what it will do, it will now run only when the count changes. So no unnecessary re-renders, and it's safe, like React handles it. So now let's check on the localhost again, refresh it, and now let's click. So you can see it is getting updated whenever our count value is getting changed. Okay, now let me show you do's and don'ts of use effect. Okay, so the first thing is, don't throw everything into one use effect. Okay, so suppose I need to fetch some data, right? I have some function like fetch data. Okay, so I have added here, but it is wrong. Why? Because we need to split the responsibilities of use effect. Okay, so instead what we should do, we should create one more use effect. Okay, use effect, which will only responsible to fetch the data. Okay, empty array like this. Okay, so it is looks repetitive, right? But it keeps use effect clean and prevents many messy bugs. Okay, that is the first thing. And also note one more thing is, use effect runs top to bottom, means first whatever the comes first it will run. So this use effect will run first, then this. Okay, so that is the hierarchy of it. Now never make the callback async, means in this use effect, this callback function, do not make it async. Like just here, do not make it like this. That is wrong. Okay, so instead what we have to do, just remove it here. Okay, what we have to do, inside this we have to make a callback function. So what we can do, just wrap it here, async. Okay, async here, then we have to return it. What we have to return, let's check by awaiting fetch data. Fetch data is suppose fetch data is responsible to fetch the data from the backend API. Okay, and then after this parenthesis. Okay, so let me make it async here. So that is correct way to make a asynchronous request in useEffect. Why? Because useEffect expect cleanup to be async, and an async function secretly returns a promise, which React hates. Okay, now third thing is, which most dev forget, to cancel fetch when component unmounts. Okay, so let me create a use effect here, and one more use effect. Okay, and like this curly brackets, and in dependency array, suppose whenever the URL is getting changed, I want to run this use effect. Okay, so now here let's const suppose I have a controller. Okay, which is new abort controller. Don't worry about it, it's just a abort controller which I need to run after our backend API is fetched. Okay, so now let me just copy this async here. Okay, so here after we are doing the fetch, okay, fetch, suppose there is a URL after fetch. Okay, and then in signal let's pass controller dot signal. Okay, and then whatever the data we are getting, let's convert it into the JSON. Data is await response dot JSON. Okay, and then let's set data, set it control Z. It's in data state we are setting here. So now after running the fetch like this, most they forget to basically abort this fetch request. Okay, so you should always in return, in cleanup, you should always abort this fetch request. Okay, so here controller dot abort. Okay, so this cancel the fetch request on unmount of our component. So it prevents, basically can't perform a state update on unmounted components. Okay, so that is the do's and don'ts of useEffect. It's mini project time. So now let's build something real. A stock price tracker that updates every 5 seconds. So basically what we want to build, it will just show stock price, and that price will automatically get updated after 5 seconds, and that updated price user can see in the UI. Okay, so that's what we want to create. So let's remove these everything. Okay, and also this div. Okay, so now we need a state to store the price value, right? So let's create a state const price and set price. By default it will be 0. Okay, starting price of this stock is 0. Okay, so now let's use this price to display here. So let's in here, let me add one more style here. Before this, I want to show everything in text align center. Okay, so now in this div, let's create an h1 tag which will just show the live stock price. Okay, and the current price value, whatever we have. So let's use this state. Okay, and also here in p tag, let's add one tip that auto updates every 5 seconds. Okay, so now we have this price, right? Now let's update it in every 5 seconds. And how we can do that? By using useEffect. Okay, so let's create a useEffect here. So useEffect. Okay, it gives us the callback function here. So let's do that, and let's give it empty array, means we don't want anything in dependency. Okay, so now what we can do, we have to increase the price value, okay, in every 5 seconds, right? So let's create a function which will increase the price. Okay, so const, let's say make it fetch price. Okay, so here I'm going to use the math random, okay, which will just give me some random values and we'll fix it to 2. Okay, so math dot random, okay, and into 1000 dot 2 fixed, will get out only to 2 decimal here, and whatever this fetch price is, we'll store this into our set price state. Okay, so let's do that. So set price, and here let's set the whatever the price we have. So let's do one thing. Let's rename it fixed price instead of fetch price. Okay, and let's set it here and fake price. Okay, whatever the price we are getting, and now we need to keep this inside a function which we can call inside a interval in every 5 seconds, right? So let's wrap it within function. So let's create a const, we'll name it fetch price now, is equal to a syntax like this, and now let's cut these 2 lines and paste it here. So basically what we have done, we have created a fetch price function which is just getting the random numbers, okay, and that price we are setting into this our set price state, right? Now let's call this fetch price in every second, every 5 seconds. Basically how we can do that, we can do it by using set interval. Okay, so let's call this fetch price, okay, because in interval it will run after 5 seconds. Okay, so let's do that here. Now const id, let's name it id, okay, then set interval, okay, and let's give interval of 5 seconds, And here in interval, let's call this fetch price. Okay, that's it, right? Now when this what phase, let's check how it's working on use localhost. So let's go to localhost, refresh it, and now you can see right now we have 935.65, right? Now after 5 seconds it get updated. Now let's wait more 5 seconds. 512.27, right? So as you can see, it is updating the stop price. Okay, so let's go to here. Now what we want to do, when I want to continue rerun this fetch price, but what if this app.jsx gets removed from DOM? Okay, means component has unmounted. Then in that case, I don't want to execute this fetch price function again, right? So we have to clean this. So how we can do that? By cleanup function. So how we can create cleanup function useEffect? Whatever will be passing inside that return, that will be our cleanup function. So let's use return. Okay, and here in arrow syntax, let's clear the interval. So clear interval, what we want to clear, how we have stored in id. So let's do that. Okay, now let's go again to localhost and refresh the page, and you can see it is starting like this. Okay, so here what we have done, useEffect run once, we set up a set interval and clean it up when the component unmounts. So basically what happens, whenever our app.jsx gets added into DOM, okay, then this useEffect runs. Okay, means it gets triggered automatically by React, right? Then here what we are doing, we are calling the fetch price. Means here in fetch price, we are just creating a fake price and setting it to our state, right? Then we are creating an interval, basically using set interval. So it will, after 5 seconds, it will run our fetch price again. So means after 5 seconds, fetch price will be called and we'll get a new value, and that new value gets set into the price. And if anytime this app.jsx get removed from DOM, then this cleanup function will clean the interval. So here we have used the clear interval to clean it. Okay, so that is how useEffect works. And trust me, if you have mastered this, you going to use it so much in your applications. Okay, and it is very helpful. Like you can call APIs. Suppose you are opening any component, and then over there, as the components open, you want some data to be fetched, right? So you can call that into useEffect and all. So it is very important hook. You have to master it so that you can get more understanding and create a more bug-free code in your React applications. So yeah, that's it. Recap time. What we have learned today. First, we have learned what is useEffect so that we can do something after render. Then we have learned how useEffect replaces componentDidMount, componentDidUpdate, and componentWillUnmount. Then we have learned how to do the cleanups in useEffect to avoid memory leaks. Then we have learned how useEffect perfect for fetching timers, subscription, analytic, DOM changes. And then at last, we have created a mini project which is livestock tracker. Coming up next, in episode 9, we are going to learn the silent ninja of hooks, useRef. We'll use it to store data without triggering renders, access DOM node directly, build timers, scroll tracker, and video controls. If you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. See you in next episode, nerds.